Monsieur le ministre de l'Administration territoriale, Excellence Madame le ministre de la Promotion de la Femme et de la Famille, Excellence Madame l'Ambassadeur, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs des missions diplomatiques et institutions internationales, Mesdames et Messieurs les représentants des ministères et services techniques du gouvernement, Mesdames et Messieurs les représentants des organisations non gouvernementales, distingués invités. Nous vous souhaitons la bienvenue au lancement conjoint du plan de réponse humanitaire 2023 pour le Cameroun. Je tiens à vous remercier d'avoir répondu présent à l'invitation de Monsieur le ministre de l'Administration territoriale et de Monsieur le coordinateur humanitaire à l'occasion de ce lancement. C'est un plaisir d'être parmi vous. Vous êtes venus très nombreux et cela illustre une nouvelle fois la force de notre engagement, la force de l'engagement de chacun d'entre nous en faveur des femmes, des hommes et des enfants du Cameroun. Nous allons ce matin vous présenter des éléments et chiffres clés de l'aperçu des besoins humanitaires ainsi que du plan de réponse humanitaire pour le Cameroun, mais pas uniquement. Nous allons aussi porter des histoires, car la réponse humanitaire n'est pas seulement une affaire de chiffres. Nous parlons de vie, nous parlons du présent, mais nous parlons aussi de l'avenir de femmes, d'hommes, d'enfants, de familles et de leur communauté. Mesdames et messieurs, distingués invités, le plan de réponse humanitaire a été développé au travers d'un processus consultatif et inclusif. Comme vous le savez, ce processus de planification comprend la collecte et l'analyse des données, l'identification et la priorisation des besoins, ainsi que la définition d'une stratégie de réponse adaptée et ciblée. Toutes ces activités menées conjointement nous ont permis de renforcer cette année la priorisation de notre action et de s'attaquer aux besoins les plus critiques. Ensemble, aux côtés du gouvernement du Cameroun, nous sommes mobilisés pour identifier les besoins et y répondre au mieux de nos capacités. Nous avons travaillé en étroit lien avec la direction de la protection civile, avec les ministères et services étatiques concernés. Je tiens à les remercier une nouvelle fois, ainsi que l'intersecteur qui a joué un rôle central et tous les partenaires qui ont pu y contribuer. Je voudrais aussi saluer les personnes et communautés affectées, car celles-ci sont actrices de proximité, de solidarité et de réponse en cas de crise. Mon message aujourd'hui sera donc aussi celui de notre force collective. Sans plus tarder, je vais passer à la présentation. Let me first talk about the analysis and the key figures of the humanitarian needs overview. Cameroon, as you know, continues to be affected by the effects of three crises: the conflict in the Lake Chad Basin, the crisis in the Northwest and Southwest region, and the crisis in the Central African Republic, and the subsequent presence of refugees in the eastern region. But we also have natural disaster and climatic shock, which have an intensifying and strong impact, as for instance, effects continue to be felt today of last year's floods in the far north. They have long-term effects in some areas due to houses, but also field and crop damage. 4.7 million people are in need of humanitarian assistance and protection. Where are people in need? As you can see on the map, they are in the vast majority in areas directly affected by crisis, disaster, violence, where most severe and acute needs remain. They are also in neighboring areas of displacement of refuge and returns. Who are people in need? Among people in need of humanitarian assistance and protection, most vulnerable groups are people on the move, such as internally displaced people, returnees, refugees, as well as host communities. Acute vulnerabilities have also been identified among people who are not part of the above groups, in particular, people affected by food insecurity, nutrition issues, and floods. Comme je le disais en introduction, la réponse humanitaire n'est pas seulement une affaire de chiffres. Les personnes dans le besoin sont avant tout des vies, des histoires et des espoirs d'enfants, de femmes et d'hommes. Ce sont Basile, Nguisaye, Emma, leurs proches et tous les autres que nous avons rencontrés l'année dernière sur le terrain dans les différentes régions. Voici par exemple tout d'abord Basile et sa famille. Ils ont dû fuir en début d'année leur village du fait de la violence de groupes armés et ont rejoint Mokolo avec seulement quelques effets. Ils sont restés à Mokolo depuis. Qui sont plus particulièrement les personnes dans le besoin comme Basile et sa famille? Vous pouvez voir sur le prochain slide combien sont affectés ici et par quelle crise. Nous pouvons noter que plus de la moitié des personnes dans le besoin sont des enfants. Notre analyse étant inclusive et devant être inclusive, vous pouvez voir aussi que des personnes âgées, des personnes vivant en situation de handicap ont été identifiées comme personnes vulnérables. Avant de parler de notre réponse planifiée en 2023, revenons rapidement à l'année dernière. Grâce à notre action, pouvoir être soigné, manger, boire, pouvoir aller à l'école, s'abriter, pouvoir défendre ses droits ne sont pas restés de vains espoirs pour des centaines de milliers de personnes au travers du pays. Ainsi, 1,5 million de personnes, comme M. le coordinateur humanitaire l'a mentionné, ont pu être atteintes l'année dernière grâce à l'action de la communauté humanitaire. En 2023, plus que jamais, nous poursuivrons cette action. Here is the story of Emma, one of the many women who benefited from our humanitarian intervention last year. In Tico, she benefited from livelihood activities implemented by humanitarian partners. Emma and her friends are managing now some chicken and egg production and can now earn a living and feed their children. As you know, the humanitarian needs overview analysis is serving as the basis for our humanitarian response plan. Out of people in need, we define our target. We prioritize based on severity of needs and operational capacity. In 2023, the HRP will target 2.7 million people. The plan has the following strategic objectives. Reduce the mortality and morbidity of 1.3 million people affected by crisis. Improve the respect of fundamental rights of 1.2 million people affected by crisis. And reduce vulnerabilities and strengthen resilience of 920,000 people. We observed, therefore, a slight increase in the target from the 2.6 million last year, due mainly to an increased target in food security, as well as health and shelter targets. There is no target decrease in any sectors, given persisting or increasing needs. To reach and respond to the needs of people, we will continue to strengthen multi-sectoral and rapid response to shocks, gender and age responsiveness and inclusivity, accountability to affected population, and reduce vulnerabilities to strengthen collaboration with all actors. Indeed, as the humanitarian coordinator mentioned, humanitarian needs can only be addressed if root and structural causes of those needs are being addressed. Where will our operation target people? We can see on this slide how our response is articulated, with 962,000 people targeted in relation to the conflicts and disaster in the far north, 1.3 million in relation to the crisis in the northwest southwest, those including also some neighboring and close region, 368,000 in eastern region in relation to the Central African refugees. Who are more specifically our people targeted? 28% are girls, 23 women, 27 boys, and 22% men. In total, 56% of our target are children, and 15% people are persons with disabilities. You can see further details and figure on the next slide. Be reassured you will receive all these details in any case. People in displacement are one of our target group given their specific vulnerabilities. Please see the story of Ndi Zaye, a refugee woman. Fleeing from Nigeria, she had initially found refuge in a village along the border, but had to displace again recently due to armed attacks. We will continue in our plan, continue to see for the most acute and immediate needs of refugees, displaced persons, returnees, and host communities. On the next slide, we can see how many people have been targeted out of the number of people in need within each respective sectors. Based on severity analysis and scale, analysis of cause and operational capacity, prioritization has been made to focus on most acute needs and shock. Let me just take one example, for instance, of the food security sector, who is targeting 1.8 million people out of the 3.2 million people in need. You can see, of course, all the sectors on the slide, and you will have all the details in the published documents. The humanitarian community will need a total of 407 $7.3 million to fund the humanitarian response. This is an increase in comparison to last year, $376 million. The main reason is the increase in budget for several sectors, in particular food security, given the needs and increased target to 1,000,000 people in 2023. Furthermore, the cost of operation globally has also increased in comparison, linked in particular to the increase of price linked to the pandemics, aftermath of the pandemics and the crisis in Ukraine, the conflict in Ukraine. Requirements for each sector are described in the slide that you can see on the screen. To be able to respond to the needs, the humanitarian community needs resources, but also an enabling environment. In crisis, and given the complexity of our environments, there are most often challenges that hinder the capacity of humanitarian partners to effectively stay and deliver. Key challenges encountered by humanitarian action in the country include limited funding. We will come back on those details later on. Insecurity, it is affecting also humanitarian workers and supplies, abductions, threats, apprehensions, theft, injuries, even killings have taken place. This is hampering our ability to reach all those in need. There are also movement limitations and restrictions, which are levied by various parties. When the partner cannot run its activities in a principled manner and as continuously or regularly as it would need to reach all those in need, wherever they are, it impacts